What if I told you rage, anger, and violence are also tools essential to a community's survival? I've been thinking about this a lot this year, how our anger has been shunned and weaponized against us, and many of the marginalized instead lean into states of humbleness, being a bigger person, or even turning the other cheek. That's, never really been my doctrine. I've always felt like the oddball because of that. I rarely decide to be the bigger person. I have never seen the resolve in that. It also raises another question for me. Is peace really restored for both people in the conflict if only one person has to be the bigger person? No, it isn't. I want to note that I'm not talking about pettiness or being ridiculously stubborn. I'm talking about equity and harm reduction and restorative peace for all parties involved, which I don't think is possible when the resolve is I'll be the bigger person. Short term harm reduction, it helps at the moment, but I don't think it helps in the long run. There are so many ways that anger, rage, and even violence have been helpful for me, saved me, and has even nurtured my politics. So, how does peace connect with anger, rage, or violence? We're going to get into all of that with this video. Hey, my name is Queen. Welcome to the Mixed Vixen YouTube channel. Hey, boo, if you are new here and if you are coming back, thanks for coming through. I appreciate you. As you saw by the title of this video, we are going to get all into anger. This is my love letter to the angry Black woman. There is a lot about anger that has been helpful for me and that I genuinely think is necessary and needed for my liberation. And I think because anger and rage and violence has always been taught to us through the eyes of our oppressor, that we tend to shy away from it and be afraid of it. We don't have a healthy relationship with anger and rage. We should. I think it's necessary. And the reason why this is a love letter for Black women is because that angry Black woman stereotype and the use of that is on purpose and to make us not tap into that very useful part of us as people with emotions. And because of the effect of systemic isms, we have chosen to break away from that part of us as Black women, as Black femmes, because systemically that has been used against us to harm us. But the tool of that is to mute that part of us. Because how does a nation, like look at history, how does a nation get to liberation if no one is angry, if no one is raging, if no one is willing to commit violence to fight for and get the liberation that they inherently are entitled to? Anger, rage, which sometimes leads to violence, is necessary. It is an energy that is not here for no reason. I don't think any energy that we create is useless. I think anger, rage are a useful energy source. And although like emotions aren't facts, right? Because there's so many factors into why a person feels the way they feel, emotions are energy. These are things that we use to restore our personal peace in the moment. And for the most part, especially marginalized peoples have been shunned when we tap into that energy of anger. And has done a very good job of only highlighting the anger, the range of the violence, and not focusing on or examining how we even landed to the point of rage and the point of anger. So we get these snapshots of rage or anger, and most of us are taught to just de escalate that part of it. And then we throw away the people who are enraged, who are angered, who have committed violence. They are the harmful person, and we decide that that should just be disposed of. And I understand that in terms of immediate safety. If you are harming me right now, I'm going to do what I have to do to stop it. But that isn't sustainable because we haven't addressed what actually is causing the rage. I do want us to have that immediate safety, but I also want us to have structures, sustainable structures of peace, safety in the long run. There are things that anger provides us. There are things that anger activates. There are things that cannot be reached until you've reached that epic part of rage. For the long term, I think that community should also see what anger provides, what rage provides, and not only see it as something destructive, not only see it as something that takes away, and not see it as just a snapshot of moments, and see it as the result of collective harm that needs to be resolved. We try so hard to run away from the angry black woman, angry black person stereotype that I thought of us as dismissing that anger, rage, and violence is an important tool in the toolkit for our community survival. Anger, violence, rage, these are all things that freed the enslaved folks across the diaspora. Anger has even been the drive for peaceful movements in this country. The civil rights movement, Martin Luther King, Bayard Rustin, Rosa Parks, these people came together. Their pathway was to use peaceful models, but it was that anger and rage that got them there. Peace is always the goal. I don't think the pathway to that goal is absence of anger, rage, violence. One thing that helped deepen my thought about anger and rage was by further understanding peace and what the essential things that are needed for the longevity in peace. Dr. Martin Luther King, when he was in jail in Birmingham, this famous letter that Dr. King wrote, there's one very poignant section of this letter. And he distinguishes in this letter that there are two kinds of peace. So there's negative peace and there's positive peace. Negative peace is simply the absence of tension, whereas positive peace is the presence of justice. I'm gonna go further into like what that means and what that looks like practically. So negative peace refers to the absence of violence. An example of that would be like a ceasefire or breaking up a fight in a cafeteria. What happens is you disarm the immediate harm, you stop the immediate act from happening, but you have not restored peace for all parties involved. You're now in a negative peace space. Immediate harm has been stopped, but the person who was harmed and the person committed harm, for whatever reasons that that person was committed harm, you have not got to the bottom of why that existed so that they can stop infinitely. And you have provided safety for the person harmed, but you haven't guaranteed that they would never be harmed again. The conflict is not resolved. We just stop the immediate harm. So examples of this are prisons, suspending people from school, job terminations, the police. A lot of our justice system here is just negative peace actions. So positive peace is something different and something that a liberatory politic is aiming for, is more so aiming for. So, positive peace is filled with structures and frameworks to proactively prevent harm and so that there's longevity in harm reduction. So, whatever conflict that takes place is less likely to happen again. Positive peace is filled with positive content, such as the restoration of relationships, the creation of social systems that serve the needs of the whole population, and the constructive resolution of conflict. So you are building systems and infrastructure so that the probability of conflict arising again is really, really, really low. So providing quality education. One of the easiest ways to stop crime is to reduce and eliminate poverty, reduce homelessness, create social services that allow for people to get the mental and medical care that they need. Addressing those conflicts on a societal level will go further than the negative peace actions that generally take place. So instead of just thinking of these short term things that just stop immediate harm, and thinking further and thinking about, how do I make it so that another person never gets robbed? How do I make it so that never again does a person have to commit crimes because of their basic needs not being met in survival? We've all been conditioned to believe in a system of negative peace, believing that police are necessary, believing that the judicial system that we have is necessary. So only taking care of conflict after harm has already happened, and not creating systems to make it so that the probability of harm happening is reduced. I'd much rather live in a world like that. I don't want to live in a world where I am only addressing conflict when it happens, because that means the harm has already happened. The police aren't preventing crimes from happening. They are coming in after I've already been harmed. I'm already harmed. And now we're going to remedy that. Why not do things, create structures to reduce the amount of harm people even have to interact with? And the reason why that happens is because we have a very negative relationship with anger, a very bad relationship with rage. We do not see rage as a reason to investigate and get to the root of the problem. Like Dr. King has said, rioting is the language of the unheard. That's why I don't reject the angry black woman. And I try my best, not 100%, I try my best not to be scared of being considered the angry black woman. It's difficult because I'm black, I'm a woman. I present in ways that is not, classism is involved because of the way I talk, nails, whatever, the whole shebang. I'm dark skinned. I sound like a girl from the Bronx. Like things like that where I can literally not be exerting any anger and people perceive me as angry. So I have been conditioned to try to subdue that. Not that much. I am pretty, if you know me personally, I'm not changing. I have a stoic face. If I'm not talking, I'm not changing that. If that makes you uncomfortable, that's a you problem. That's not a me problem. But I still live in this world, and there are times where I try my best to not come off a certain way. We should let go of that. It's also another respectability politic that we just gotta let go of. It's not getting us anywhere. If you're not a bubbly person, I'm not bubbly. And that's just what it's going to be. And I'm not going to be bubbly so that people don't see me as an angry black person. That is their anti-blackness. And that has nothing to do with me and how I want to live and exist. So I think it's best for us to let go of that. If you think I'm angry, oh wow. Exploring all of this stuff, it has piqued my interest when it comes to transformative justice and restorative justice, because I am understanding this has helped me understand that these are systems that can possibly work. The practicality of that, I just haven't seen it happen successfully. No one has made it look sexy. No one has made it look like something that I can believe beyond theory. And if you are someone who has examples of that, I would love to see that. If you could put that in the comments, do that. That'd be dope. But what I know is, even with restorative justice or transformative justice, we can't fully use those models if we continue with our discomfort with rage and anger. There's some things from an essay that I read, I think last year, from Audre Lorde, that was really, really helpful for me when it came to me being okay with anger and rage and dismantling existing the way that I exist, and also dismantling the idea that I should not be angry. I have every reason under the sun to be angry. So this Audre Lorde piece, she writes about the usefulness of anger, and I'm going to read a excerpt from that. And this is from Audre Lorde's essay, The Uses of Anger, Women Responding to Racism. Any discussions among women about racism must include the recognition and the use of anger. This discussion must be directed and creative because it is crucial. We cannot allow our fear of anger to deflect us nor seduce us into settling for anything less than the hard work of excavating honesty. We must be quite serious about the choice of this topic and the angers entwined within it, because rest assured, our opponents are quite serious about their hatred of us and of what we are trying to do here. And while we scrutinize the often painful face of each other's anger, please remember that it is not our anger which makes me caution you to lock your doors at night and not to wander the streets of Hartford alone. It is the hatred which lurks in those streets that urge to destroy us all if we truly work for change rather than merely indulging in academic rhetoric. This hatred and our anger are very different. Hatred is fury of those who do not share our goals, and its object is death and destruction. Anger is a grief of distortion between peers, and its object is change. But our time is getting shorter. We have been raised to view any differences other than sex as a reason for destruction, and for black women and white women to face each other's angers without denial or immobility or silence or guilt is in itself a heretical and generative idea. It implies peers meeting upon a common basis to examine difference and to alter those distortions which history has created around our difference. For it is those distortions which separate us, and we must ask ourselves, who profits from this? So in this essay, Audre Lorde was addressing the conflict between white feminists and black feminists, and that if you are a person of hate, so if you hate people, and I think most people make this connection and they think hate and anger are the same thing. They're not. Hate is about destruction. Hate is about scarcity. Hate is about destroying, demolition. That is very different from anger. Anger is the result of distortion. Anger is the result of neglect. Anger is the result of continuous harm. Very different things. But a lot of us have been led to believe that anger and hate are synonymous, and they're not. And we were taught to believe that on purpose, so that as a marginalized, oppressed person, if you ever feel anger and act on anger, you are just like the oppressive, hateful person. You're not. And like Audre Lorde says, the person who benefits from us believing that anger and hatred are synonymous and the same thing, and that because you act on your anger or rage, that you are just as harmful as the oppressor, the person who is the one filled with hatred, the ruling class wins. That is who wins. And we, us, black people, have to look anger in the eye and see it as a tool that we need. It is helpful, and understand that you acting on your anger and rage is not the same as an oppressive system on your neck. This distinction between hatred and anger that Audre Lorde just eloquently writes on paper for us is essential. And I'm really grateful to have found this text, because it really helped me. I never believed in being in person. I always knew that my anger and rage did not equate to what white supremacist patriarchal capitalism did to me. And I never understood turning the other cheek. I never understood being the bigger person, because I knew the feeling that I had was not the same thing they did. So it wasn't my duty to be the better person, because if you're operating in hatred, there's no need for me to be better. I'm already the better person, because hatred is something very different than anger. I'm still exploring anger, but this is where I land with it right now. I do like to always keep this as an open discussion, so please leave comments, your ideas on anger, and share ways that anger, rage, even violence has been helpful for you in your survival, and with how you utilize the tool, whatever tools you have to get to liberation. I do have some community care like homework to give you watching this video to help reacquaint our relationships with anger and rage and being an angry Black woman. So here are 5 ways to turn anger into an advantage. Use anger to flush out repressed emotions. Any feelings, unpleasant emotions that you have, and you may not have, released it in the moment and stuff like that, but when you get to points of anger, find a healthy way to release it. I believe that our emotions are our bodies communicating to us. You're never angry for no reason. Honor your body and allow that energy to pass. Allow that energy to live through you and go somewhere and be released. Do not hold on to it. That's something that has been very helpful for me, because everything around me told me that anger was useless and I should not use it. I will hold it in. Now that's not the case anymore. I found, and because I've never learned healthy ways to release anger, I can't go around beating up everybody. That was useful when I was a kid. That's not useful now. So I've learned other ways to release that. Figure out what works for you. But use anger to flush out repressed emotions. Use anger to reveal your weak spot. This speaks to triggers, but we like to use the word triggers. I don't like to use a lot of therapy speak, but what triggers your anger? If you know what gets you to the point of anger, then you also can learn what boundaries to create for yourself, because you know what gets you there. If you know what gets you from 0 to 100. So you know whatever gets me to 100 can't be around me, can't have that in my space. But you can't get to that if all you do is repress and run away from anger, and you don't have a relationship, and you don't embrace and accept the things that get you angry. Angry is a very natural emotion. We've been told that it is an evil emotion. It's not. It's there for a reason. Use anger to move out of complacency. One thing anger does is get some fire under that ass. Think about how you have been activated. Think about how anger has activated you to get something done. How anger has activated you to now decide to, organize for a cause. Anger, although it was short-lived for many people, but I like to call the White Awakening of 2020 when George Floyd was murdered, anger is what got people out their butts and in the street. Anger. Anger will make you push your limits and realize what the hell is going on around you is not enough. You're not satisfied. And that also can be number 4, which is using anger as motivation. Child. Call me petty. I don't care. But that's one thing that, I will do some amazing things out of anger. Some people call it spite. Some people call it pettiness. I don't care. But I will, what? You did what? All right, watch this. That's anger. I tap into that a lot. And it has motivated me to do things, to do some amazing things, because we can naturally become complacent. So use that as a motivation. Use anger to identify the people around you that you don't align with. Some people you just don't bang with, and that's okay. And if you don't listen to your anger, if you don't listen to the rage inside your body that tells you, this not my kind of person. This is not, whatever. You deny yourself safety. There's something telling you that, whatever, but because we are taught anger is bad, you might look in on yourself and think you're a bad person for thinking this about this person, or, whatever. No. Okay. Use it to identify the folks you do not align with, so that when it comes to who you are and, family, friends, community, you can identify those people, and maybe those aren't the people that you are the closest with. That is okay. Not everybody is somebody that you're going to be aligned with. I am not aligned with someone who is hugely capitalistic, and they're always going to turn me off. They're always going to say something that I don't agree with. They're always going to say something that makes me angry. So, in general, are there capitalist people around me? Of course. I have family members who are highly capitalist, which always is funny because we all from the projects, but okay, right? But it is what it is. I know my limits with these person because I know that we do not align 100%. And we know people don't align 100%. That's totally fine. So I'm not saying that. But because I fully acknowledge the rage, anger, discomfort when there are people around me who are not aligned, I know my limits. I'm not going to fully try to persuade you to get to my side of the thing, my side of, my philosophies and my ideas and my ideals, because my anger tells me that it's probably something that I can't do. And it is okay. It is just as much as you listen to your body when you're happy and the good moments, listen to your body with the emotions that society has told us are not great. They are talking to you. Listen to them. So that is it for today. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Put a fire emoji in the comments so I know you're a real one. Fire, flame, And as always, you are a bad bitch. You are enough. Stay fly. I will see you in the next video.